Well, greetings Commanders, and welcome to yet another video where I shove my head through stuff in Elite Dangerous. Today, of course, we're looking at the very iconic Cobra, the most iconic ship in all of ED, and one that I was certainly very happy to get the first time I got it. So let's jump right in and have a look at this thing. So I'm starting off today in the Copilot's chair, just so I can say hello to Commander Headless, sitting over there looking all headless. Alright, so let's step out of this chair and start having a look around. The first thing you'll notice about most of these videos and about most of these ships is that they are in fact much larger than you expect them to be. I'll try and do a quick little orientation here with regards to the grab handles. That grab handle over there is way out of my reach. In order to grab it, I have to come all the way over here. There is another grab handle right above me, and just about I could wrap my hand around it but not quite grasp onto it. It is still very high up. So let's start walking around here and showing you the interiors. We'll start over here in the Copilot seat because this is probably a less familiar view than over there where Headless is sitting. So to look at the chair very briefly, it is the same as the generic chairs with the very thin, what looks like padding and some fairly inaccurate stitching there at the back. It looks like a fantastically uncomfortable seat. I go into a bit more detail in some of my other videos in terms of seats, but there is no lumbar support, very thin material, very thin padding, and I think sitting here for hundreds of hours, as most of us have, would actually be physically very uncomfortable indeed. Over here, each of the two pilots has their own keyboard based on the old micro. In fact, says DeLacy KS12 micro because it is based on the BBC microcomputer circa 1981 odd. And if you look into the history of the Elite Dangerous creators, you'll see why that is actually significant. That is mounted here. That is mounted here on this swing arm, which would allow it to go pretty much anywhere that the commander or pilot would want to reach. And as previously detailed, there are SD and CF card slots, as well as what looks like an audio mixer and actual slightly raised keys of the keyboard there. So that's kind of interesting. It isn't a flat texture, which is what I expected it to be. This panel section here in the side is also quite deceptive. You could easily lie down on it. Your head would be about there, your feet would go to the end, but you could easily actually lie down on this. It looks like a parcel shelf, but it's about the length of a single bed, maybe about 75% of the thickness. So if you want to have a little kip, you could absolutely lie down in this section to give you a sense of the size of that. The bacon strips on the wall here are the same as in the Viper 3. If you look at the Viper 3 video, I addressed them in more detail, but they're about 1.5 to 2 feet in width. Now the grab handle there, definitely human-sized grab handle that you could hold on to get yourself in and out of the seat. If we move backwards to begin with, there are these 3 drawers for, I don't know, screws, bolts and screwdrivers probably. They're each about 8 centimeters in, about 8 inches in width roughly, and about 4 inches in height. There's another grab handle here that you could steady yourself as you walk around to this main news entertainment panel. It talks about the mainframe overview, core temperature presumably of the mainframe, and some stuff that needs calibration and some stuff that is offline and also online. No idea what that means. The screen doesn't change in any way, shape or form, but in terms of size, I would say it's about a 30-inch display, roughly. So if you have a 30-inch monitor at home that you're watching this on, that's about the size of this inlaid panel here. Moving on behind it, there is a very significantly sized parcel shelf. I would say probably 3 by 3 feet, lifted there off the ground, that you could store some stuff on very easily. And one little cupboard here with a bit of orange, which is actually floating just in front of it by about 0.5 centimeter. So that's a bit of an error, but just a little clicky cupboard that you could store some stuff in. Then coming up to the rear here, we have the rear door. Now this is exactly the same door. Everything about the door is exactly the same as the Viper Mark III. So if you've seen that, you can see the angle of the door. I will be walking through that very shortly once I finish doing the rounds here. And now back to the front of where the Copilot sits, there is this little display here, which just has orange and blue on it. Not sure what that's trying to indicate. Something here that says HP Systems and some sort of small indication. And over here, same thing as we've seen before, the exit with a bunch of numbers or something, maybe extension, I don't know what it means. With a bunch of numbers, hardpoint and hatch. And over here, targeting, ... Another blue and orange display there, and not much else to say about that. These panels all come down as the windscreen comes towards the end, so they don't clip through the window, but there is nothing else terribly interesting happening over here. The holographic emitter here is about 60 centimeters, or about the size of a normal size Lazy Susan that you might have on your table, and the emitter here for the Cobra is about the same size as a standard dinner plate as with the other ships. Now in the front of the emitter we have a nice bit of aged maybe metal is what it looks like, with some plastic inlays, and if we look underneath there's just more of the same and a blackened end to the interior, but nothing other than whatever this fake leathery kind of fabric is. And under the dash in the middle there, it's pretty much the same. In terms of the center console, there's something written here, and it's hard to read in a pancake version, but you can definitely see it here. So it says, Seat 1 active, obviously headless is sitting over there. Seat deployed, 25 centimeters. Seat 2 inactive, Seat 2 not deployed, and temperature 15. And then there are some controls for seemingly the temperature down the bottom there, and maybe, I don't know. What is interesting about these seats is, and I do look at them in more detail in other videos, but some of them actually slide backwards and forwards, and these ones seem to very much be fixed in place in this sort of tub shape made out of metal. So I'm not sure how they would not be deployed, but there you go. Perhaps the seat deployed refers to the keyboard itself, which here is much closer and moved forward on the arm than it is over there at the Copilot seat. So perhaps that is what it's actually referring to. Interestingly, you can see the keyboard here is actually slightly slanted backwards and out to allow better access to the keys, which is something interesting. And the arm there that goes all the way to the floor and is bolted in as the previous side. Some air vents over here and some pipes heading from one end to the other and not really being labeled in any way, shape or form. And over here under the bacon strips we have some sort of a roll of something that is being transported, and it seems to be tied down with more of those bacon strips. Just you can't see the latch there at the back, no. And if we stick our head inside, there's nothing to be seen apart from the other end of the strips. And over here we have 3 more of those drawers, which again don't have an interior. And over here we have a repeat of the same panel that's over the other side. Right, I think it's about time we go through that door. What do you reckon? So I've stuck myself right on the floor here instead of at human height, because you can see that version in the Viper. What's much more interesting here is the bottom and what's underneath through the door. Just before we head through, you can see it says CB8-23RF. Rightio, let's head on through, shall we? So straight in front of us is a blind that I'll run into many times, and then is the cargo bay. Now what's interesting about this is we can get reasonably close to it. We can see here the low resolution texture of the turn for release being placed upside down in front of the cargo bay there, which is kind of interesting. And we can sort of peek slightly into the cargo bay from this vantage point and see here is some sort of a pulley system which would probably hold up a piece of cargo and roll around to allow you to lift it and move it in various different spaces in the cargo hold itself. And some other videos, especially the Sidewinder one, actually explores that area in more detail. So have a look at that one if you want to see more of that. But here, more interestingly, is the landing gear, which comes up this way. Seems to be a set of deployed steps, almost looks as though it's an escalator. and you can count for yourself how many there are, but it is rather significant. What's interesting is that it comes up to the cargo bay as if the door went there, but in fact, obviously it doesn't, because you have to get from that platform there to the back of that door in order to actually get into the ship itself. And here you can also see the rear of the medium hard points there, and they are substantially large, probably 8 feet across, maybe 15 feet deep, and about 6 feet high, obviously mounted upside down. And over there, glitching away in the corner, you can see the small hard point there on the edge of the wing, and its corresponding friend over there behind the cargo bay. And the landing struts, which on this ship are very substantial, you can see they're pretty fat pieces of machinery. Very impressive indeed. And if we initiate the launch sequence, I'll just watch the landing gear here to show you what it does as the ship takes off. So you can see it sort of folds in on itself, slightly clips into the cargo bay, and folds up underneath the commander area before it disappears. And here, of course, you can see the engines operating, and in fact you can see the little flaps on the end moving very significantly to direct the flow of exhaust gas, I guess, to propel the ship in that direction. So very cool to actually see those operating, even though the engine bits are, you know, fairly spritey. And from this vantage point, if we deploy and retract the landing gear, you can see that they do in fact glitch into the cargo bay itself before they disappear. From this vantage point, you can also see the landing gear deploying and how far they come out, which is not very far, and the open cargo scoop you can also see right up into there. So you can see that that is in fact where the cargo goes. So if we take back the landing gear, you can see that it will glitch into the rear of that cargo scoop just very slightly before it disappears. And you can also see the full retraction of the cargo scoop itself, which is pretty awesome. I do the interior version of that from the Sidewinder video, so feel free to refer back to that one. One of the other really cool things about this ship is that you can see the hard points when they deploy. So let's move out as far as we can, and just like, unfortunately, the small hard points, they start off as a big open space with nothing in it, and they don't have covers over themselves in first person / VR. So if we deploy this one, you'll see it pop into existence and pop out. There you go, a little bit glitchy, and obviously it's on a gimbal, so it's trembling around. And the other one is much the same, that it sort of still hides underneath inside the dash there. And the other two hard points you can see are deployed all the way there at the rear of the ship. So if we give this one a bit of a spin up and a fire, you can see it is an extremely hefty piece of kit. Hard to describe, but I would say each barrel is about 6 feet long, about 4 inches in diameter, and you can see the whole thing is bucking back and forth like a bull. And see that raised section there at the front that looks like an air scoop on the bonnet of a sports car? Well, if you sat just behind it, you could put your legs either side of it and ride this thing like a bull, holding onto the corner of the air scoop like a saddle. That gives you the rough idea of the scale, and with it being on a gimbal, it would probably be a pretty fun ride. Same with this one over here. It is a very large piece of kit. And finally, Commander Headless said that I missed out showing you this, which is on the roof between the two pilot seats. There is this section here that shows 1, 2, what should be a 3. It's actually below that third light, and a 4, and CIS, CON, DEP, and CCL, for whatever that means. And these 2 red lights at the front are just sort of half moon kind of lights that seem to not be indicating anything terribly exciting. Okie dokes. Oh, so there you have it, Commanders. I hope you enjoyed that look at the Cobra Mark III. Really awesome ship, very iconic for the Elite Dangerous series, and certainly one of my favorites as I was growing up through the ships. Please feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, and do all the things that you would normally do with these videos. And I will see you in the next one, where we look at another ship and I stick my face straight through places where it shouldn't go. Till then, fly safe, Commanders. Bye.